You are listening to 2Blue and OSU, the ultimate sports podcast for your entertainment.
Welcome back, everybody, to 2Blue and OSU. I am your host, Zach, joined with Morgan and Ryan as always. Guys, how is your weekend going? How are we doing in the sports world this week?
Going good, man. I had a soccer game to coach on Saturday. That's always fun. Cavaliers closed it out today, so it's a good day here in Ohio. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good. Ready to talk about some hockey. And Tampa Bay closed out the Islanders today, so they're moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals as well.
We got all that, and we're talking hockey this episode. First, I want to give a shout out to all the mothers out there on this Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Happy Mother's Day to my wife and my mom, my grandparents, and your guys' mom for raising such beautiful kids.
No, my mom was definitely the winner of this podcast. Sure. So, but we'll get right into it. We're going to talk hockey today. Ryan, hockey awards. What's going on in that front?
Well, this week they announced the finalists for all the awards that will be the winners will be announced in June. Two trophies that have already been handed out so far. The President's Trophy goes to the team with the most points at the end of the regular season. This year was the Washington Capitals with 120 points. And the Art Ross Trophy, which goes to the player with the most points at the end of the regular season, and that went to Chicago's Patrick Kane. We also have the Hart Trophy, which is the league MVP. The finalists for that are Jamie Benn from the Dallas Stars. They're in the playoffs right now. Patrick Kane from Chicago Blackhawks, lost in round one. And Sidney Crosby, Pittsburgh Penguins, also in the playoffs right now.
I'm calling nonsense. Where's Alex Ovechkin, the GOAT? Dang it, NHL, you messed up.
I think that's a good group of
Here we
guys.
go again.
It's definitely a good group of guys. I'm not sure the exact stats on, American-born, European-born players winning that trophy. But I think that's a good group of guys. Ovechkin probably could fit in there. I'm sure he was nominated, but just didn't make the cut. Next we have the Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year. Gerard Gallant from Florida Panthers, Lindy Ruff, Dallas Stars, and Barry Trotz, Washington Capitals.
There's another one. Why is the Capitals coach on that? This is going back to the NBA talk. If he wins, I'm going to lose my shit.
I don't know. There's probably definitely better candidates out there. When you have the talent that you have, like Washington, you should be in the Coach of the Year talk when you're coaching, guys that aren't all-stars and talked about all the time, week in and week out. So, I could definitely see what you mean there.
Yeah, Florida's manager, in my opinion, should win it this year, in my opinion.
That was a rough. They definitely stepped out this season, and look, they made it to the playoffs. So obviously, they didn't make it past round one, but it was a good group of players, and they did good this year. Next, we have the Calder Trophy, which is for Rookie of the Year, which was a big thing this whole season because this was probably one of the best groups of rookies that the NHL has seen in quite some time. So this list came down to the wire who got the top three nominations, and it's Artemi Panarin from Chicago, Shane Gostisbehere from Philadelphia, and Connor McDavid from Edmonton Oilers. I think Shane Gostisbehere is probably going to get this one.
You throw your hands up, Zach. Why are you mad?
There's a name that's missing from that list that should be there.
I think Dylan Larkin should have made this list.
Thank you.
He's 19 years old coming into the season, and for a while he was leading all rookies in points, or not points, but the plus or minus. He pretty much got the team into the playoffs, led the team in goals. He definitely should be on this list, without a doubt, in my opinion. And that's not just coming from a Detroit fan perspective.
Call me biased all you want. The proof is in the stats, all right? He should be on that list. He should win this year, and that's nonsense.
Next, we got the Norris Trophy for the best defenseman. Eric Carlson from Ottawa, Drew Doughty from LA Kings, and Brent Burns from San Jose Sharks. If I was going to pick a winner in this one, I would say Brent Burns. He's been the most talked about, especially out of these three towards the end of the season and now into the postseason. The other teams didn't make it, but I think Brent Burns should win this one. Then you got the Selke Trophy, which is for the best defensive forward. Patrice Bergeron from Boston, who's been nominated. I believe this is his 5th time he's been nominated, and I think he's won it 3 times already. Ryan Kessler from Anaheim, and Anze Kopitar from LA Kings. I think Bergeron's got a good chance of winning this one again this year, even though they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, he's in this talk every year. So then we have the Venzia Trophy, which is the best goalie. Ben Bishop for Tampa Bay, Braden Holtby from Washington, and Jonathan Quick from LA. In my opinion, we were talking before the show started, Ben Bishop has been phenomenal this year, and I think he should get this one.
Just by watching him in the playoffs and what he did in the regular season, Bishop gets my vote.
And he had a shutout today. So
yeah. Bishop gets my vote.
Yeah, outstanding goalie.
Yeah.
And the last one is the Masterton Trophy. This is for perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. Every team has one player nominated, and then the finalists are announced. This year it's Jaromir Jagr. He was nominated for being the points leader for Florida Panthers at the age of 44. Then you have Matt Zuccarello from the New York Rangers. He recovered from life-threatening skull fracture and brain contusion, and he came back to play. And then you have Pascal Dupuis, who had to retire earlier this season for continuous blood clot problems. He's had it for a couple years, been fighting it, and finally he just called it quits and retired. But I mean, he had a good, solid career, and I definitely think that's a good group of guys right there up for that award.
Yeah, I wouldn't have mind seeing Datsuk in that list, but
he was the finalist for the Red Wings because he's played through multiple injuries continuously over the past few seasons. But it just came down to those three. But yeah, it wouldn't have been bad. I wouldn't mind seeing him in there. There's probably a couple other guys that would have made that list that are probably worth it, but
you can't argue with the final three. Those are all good ones too.
They definitely are. So that's all we got for the awards. Now we can get in some playoff talk. We will start with Dallas and St. Louis. So we talked before. Last show we covered games 1 and 2. So we came out start with game 3. The Blues just came out firing. They allowed the first goal, and then they came back to score 6 unanswered goals to take a 2-1 lead in the series. Just outstanding in that game. They only allowed 26 shots on goal while getting 39 shots against Dallas in that one. St. Louis was 2 for 7 on the power play, and they shut the Stars down 4 times in the power play. After game 3, going to game 4, and Dallas came out after getting embarrassed in game 3 and winning that one in overtime. That was a close game the entire time. Eakin actually scored a game-winning goal in overtime. Dallas only allowed 26 shots that time as opposed to 39 in the game before. They went 1 for 3 on the power play. So, I mean, they definitely didn't like getting embarrassed in game 3, came back in game 4 and gave St. Louis hell. Game 5, it was more like game 3. St. Louis they're out here to win it all. We talked about this when I was on as a guest about, whoever wins the St. Louis-Chicago series had the best chance of winning the Cup this year, and St. Louis is looking to do that. They came back and won game 5, and they're leading the series 3-2 right now. So
Game 6 will be on Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and the way I'm looking at this, the wins from St. Louis are beatdowns, just embarrassments. and when the Stars actually pull out a win, they're 1-goal wins. So I'm looking at I'm going to call St. Louis closing this out Game 6 tomorrow night, with a win. And I think we said this was going to be a 7-game series. I think this last episode. But I'm going to call Game 6 tomorrow night. The Blues are just they're too dominant right now, and they let a couple get away, but I got them in 6 tomorrow night. They close it out.
Yeah, I would have to agree. The two games that St. Louis has won, 6-1 win and a 4-1 win. So St. Louis clearly shows that they can come out and dominate a game when they have to. And with the next game being in St. Louis, and St. Louis already taken 2 or 3 in Dallas, I think St. Louis will probably come out on top in this one.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, St. Louis has definitely got the upper hand at this point. Dallas is backed against the wall. St. Louis is definitely going to take this one tomorrow night. 6 games. They're moving on to the conference finals without a doubt.
Yeah.
Next we have San Jose and Nashville. San Jose is leading this one 3-2 as well. It's been a pretty even series so far. Neither team has really dominated the other one. Nashville put on a good show in Game 3. They shut down Pavelski, who's been San Jose's hot hand. They scored 2 out of 5 times in the power play and kept San Jose from scoring on the power play on 4 chances. Game 4, it was the longest game so far that we've had in the playoffs in 2016. Went to 3 overtimes. Finally, Mike Fisher scored a game-winning goal at 11-12 in the 3rd overtime. It was a goal off a rebound, and he just wrapped it around, got on the backside of the goalie, and got it in there. Took a long time. That's a long game to play. 3 overtimes. Both teams had over 40 shots in that game.
Yeah, that ended at like 2 in the morning. I couldn't sleep that night, and I happened to look at my phone and seen triple overtime. I was like, oh, cool. So I turned it on, and because I watched pretty much the whole 3rd overtime, until the 11-12 mark, and I just feel like the Sharks, they had shot after shot after shot, and they just weren't going. So you just had a feeling that Nashville was just going to get that game-winning goal. And then sure enough, they held the Sharks off just long enough to where Fisher could get that wraparound goal. And that was, you know what, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was pumped for that game. I was in it. Now, don't ask why I was up at 2 in the morning, but I was in it. I was like, oh, damn, this is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean that's basically you're playing 2 whole games at that point right there. I mean they got to be burnt. They're probably not even really skating at that point. Pretty much just walking up and down the ice. But Mike Fisher pulled it out, and I mean that's a good win for them to bring them back up into the series. San Jose scored once on 5 chances in the power play in that goal, and Nashville went 0 for 5 on the power play. So then we go to Game 5. I mean, this was pretty much all San Jose in this one. They only had 9 shots on goal, but they made sure they were all quality scoring opportunities. Nashville couldn't stop Pavelski in this game. He had 2 goals, and they even scored on the power play. So that was a huge win for San Jose to bring them up 3-2 in the series. That they definitely needed that win right there.
You can kind of tell there was some fatigue in Game 5. The 2 teams combined for 39 giveaways in that game, the highest of the series so far. So that 3 overtime game, they played a sloppy Game 5 after that. But what I found interesting was that Game 5, the Sharks was the first time since they were up 2-0 in the series. They gave 2 to Nashville, and those 2 they gave up, they were out-hit considerably by Nashville. In Game 5, they came back and they gave it to Nashville and had more hits than them in that game. So they have to be the more aggressive team. They have to be more physical than Nashville to pull this out.
You got anything on that one, Morgan?
No, I already said what I had written down. That was a hell of a game, and it's turned out to be a hell of a series.
Yeah, when you're playing 3 overtimes, then you're only getting 1 night off before you're back on the ice. That's got to be a rough game.
Now, you did say that San Jose had 9 shots. Is that is that low for a team to have? Like, I just feel like 9 shots total was pretty low.
No, 29.
Oh, 29. Okay, so
Yeah, and that, I mean,
9.
compared to the game before, granted it went into triple overtime, but both teams had over 50 shots.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe when I looked it up, it was Nashville had like 37 shots on goal in Game 5, and San Jose only had 29. So they just theirs were definitely quality scoring opportunities.
To get 5, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll move on to Tampa. We'll go Washington Pitt. We'll talk about the closer next. So Game 4 was a close one. It went into overtime. This series, they've been tight. I mean, it's been a pretty good battle back and forth. I mean, I know Morgan is pumped up about this series since even before we knew it was going to be a series. So it was definitely a close one. Hornquist scored a game-winning goal for Pitt. They found a way to shut down the Capitals and get 3 consecutive wins. I mean, if you look at the scoreboard, compared to the series 3-2 Pitt, that it's not. It doesn't reflect. Pittsburgh or Washington's been in every single game. They just can't finish. And this is typical Washington fashion, going into the playoffs and finding a way to choke. You're dominating the regular season with 120 points, and then you come in here and they made it past round 1, but they're not looking good in round 2 right now. They go into Game 5, and Pittsburgh's got a chance to close them out, and Washington surprised you. They get a huge win to keep themselves alive, get a Game 6. In Game 5, Pittsburgh allowed Washington to only get 19 shots on goal. That's really low, Morgan. But they scored on 2 for 5 power play chances, and the only goal that they allowed was on a power play when Pittsburgh was on a power play, and Pittsburgh had 31 shots on goal. So Washington, they were definitely aggressive that game. Goalie was busy, so he was probably more loose than Pitt's goalie, only getting 19 shots on him. So, when you have that little of shots on you, sometimes it's easier to win those games than it is 31 because you're just getting cold out there standing around doing nothing.
Here's what I found the most interesting from these games this week. The team that had the most shots lost every single one. 31-19 for Penguins in Game 5, lost. 36-33 for Caps in Game 4, lost. 49-23 in Game 3 in favor of Washington, lost. Take less shots, you'll win this series.
I mean, coaches are telling all their players every chance you get, put the puck on the net because you never know. You might get a lucky bounce here or there, whatever. But, I mean, you got to look for those quality scoring opportunities as well. And when a goalie's on and you're taking 31, 36 shots a game, he's going to be on point. You're only taking 19, 20, 25 shots. That goalie's standing down there bored, cold. You see him watching it. If you're at the game live, you see him skating around down there bored. You know what I mean? He's got to find something to do to keep loose, and not getting shots on goal is not helping.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, just a couple of things that I have for the Caps and Pins. Obviously, the games have been pretty close. I believe all but one has been a one-goal game. So the games are averaging about 1.2 goals for the winner. And like you said, the Pins ran off 3 in a row after going down 2-0. Game 6 is at Pitt, so that one should be pretty interesting. Just a couple of numbers. I know we were pumped to see what would be Messi and Ronaldo go at it. Ovechkin and Crosby. In this series, Crosby has 0 goals, 2 assists, and 2 points, and Ovechkin has 2 goals, 3 assists, and 5 points. Kind of the player of this series has been TJ Oshie. He has 4 goals and 5 points for Washington, so he's kind of taken over, as the main man in this series, as where everybody was excited to see, the 2 young studs go at it. The 2 faces of the NHL. and it's somebody different kind of taking over. What do you think about that, Ryan?
It's definitely interesting. But you got to think too, when the other Pitt's going to be focused strictly on Ovechkin for the most part because he is known as Washington's leader, the powerhouse for the team. His one-timer is ridiculous, but that's really all he has. If you get in his lane and don't give him a chance to take that one shot, he doesn't really have much to work with. And Sidney Crosby, I mean, he's all over the place. He's quick. He can make moves. He can burn you. He can steal the puck. I mean, he's a really good player. But if you focus a lot on him, I mean, he pretty much feeds the rest of the team. So it doesn't really surprise me too much that TJ Oshie's leading the team with goals. I mean, I talked about him last show. He was amazing before he even got transferred to Washington, and now he's there, and he hasn't slowed down yet. So, and you can't stop, TJ Oshie and Ovechkin, and then you got everybody else out there as well. So I mean, he's definitely a good addition to the team this year.
Yeah. So what are the Pens doing? Because Crosby isn't really doing a whole lot as far as getting on the stat sheet. What are the Pens doing to have this 3-2 lead?
I mean, they have a lot of other players out there that are. They got Malkin and Kessel, and I mean, they have a whole. I mean, if you look at their roster, they have everybody. Probably half that roster has made the All-Star team in the past couple years. They all play in the Olympics every year or every 4 years. They have a dominating offensive line. All four lines. You can't downgrade one line on that team like you can a lot of them. So their lines are their line 4 is just as good as Washington's first line. So all around the board, they got well-rounded players. They can get the puck around, and they don't count on one or two specific players to take over. Anybody on the ice can score. So.
And they have a pretty good goalie too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that definitely helps.
So the Pens are obviously, excuse me. So the Pens are pretty much the better all-around team in this series, and they should be able to finish off in Game 6. Then.
I don't know about that. I mean, Washington was number 1 coming in for a reason. They were the best all season in the NHL. Pittsburgh just has great players too. They both have great players. They both have great goalkeeping, and that's why we're going to a Game 6 and most likely a Game 7.
Yeah, I think this will go to a Game 7 because Washington's not gonna. I mean, they got that win in Game 5 to keep them alive, and they realized that this is going into Game 5. That this is win or go home, and I don't. They're not ready to go home. I think they still got more to prove. They said it before they even made the postseason even started that we can't be that team that makes it year in and year out and then loses in round 1 or round 2. If they want to prove themselves to be a dominating team, they have to win it all. And they let 3 of them get away. They're not going to lose in 6. This is definitely going to 7, and it's going to be an interesting battle all the way down. All right, we're going to Tampa Bay and New York Islanders. Tampa Bay closed this one out today, getting a 4-0 win. Ben Bishop was outstanding. Gave another shutout tonight. I mean, you got to think. We talked a lot about Tyler Johnson for Tampa Bay leading the team, but Nikita Kucherov has actually been more of a leader for this team this postseason than anybody else has. He's leading the league right now in postseason goals. He has 9 at this point after today. He's had multiple point games in this series. In every game except for the one they lost, he has scored a goal. And he has taken at least 5 or 4 shots on goal every game except for the one they lost. So when he's taking shots and he's scoring goals, they're winning. And it proved again today, and they're going to be a tough battle for either Pittsburgh or Washington in the conference finals.
That first team into the conference finals, and they're playing probably the best hockey in the NHL right now. Bishop is, as we said already, probably the best goalkeeper in the NHL right now, playing that way at least. And forget Washington and Pittsburgh, they might win the whole thing. They might be good enough to win the whole thing right now. And beforehand, I thought whoever's going to win Pittsburgh, Washington, would probably represent the East. You have to look at Tampa Bay now and say they would be a quality Eastern Conference champion.
Well, you can't leave Tampa Bay out of it. I mean, they were here last year. They made it to the finals last year and lost to Chicago. I don't remember how many games that series went, but they're not new to this. They know what they need to do to stay alive in the playoffs. They made an easy series of Detroit, and they just made another easy series of New York. So they're going to go in, get some rest before they play Washington or Pittsburgh, and it'll be a good series in the finals as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing for them is going ahead and close out the series and getting rest. Kind of sitting at home and watching everyone else battle it out. The Pens and Washington, you guys just said could go to Game 7. So I'm willing to bet that Tampa Bay is probably root for that. Just give them a little bit more rest. Now, is it similar to the NBA where it's rest versus rust? Do you kind of want to go for like Game 6, Game 7, and then go straight into the next series, or would you rather close out the series and get some like time off and rest?
They definitely need rest. I mean, if these guys get beat up out there, they play games that go into triple overtimes. They need their rest. It'll definitely show, probably in Game 1, maybe Game 2 a little bit, that they had the rest and they're a little rusty. But if they go into 7 games in round 1 and then in round 2, I mean, they're going to be burnt out, and it's not going to look good for them, especially going into the finals. So let's move into This Week in Sports History. Mine comes from May 8th, 1878. It was the first unassisted triple play in organized baseball by Paul Hines.
You guys have the same one? Why is he laughing like he just...
The one time we didn't even talk about it, we got the same freaking one.
Hey, if you were on ahead of time like we were, we knew what each other's were already, but nobody knew where you were at.
You took your time. Okay, well mine comes on May 5th from 1935. Jesse Owens set the long jump record of 26 feet and 8 inches.
That's pretty impressive.
This week, May 8th, 1906. A's pitcher, Chief Benders, plays outfield and hits 2 home runs. So he's a pitcher who ended up playing the outfield and also hit 2 home runs in that game. I think that's pretty cool for a pitcher to hit 2 home runs in a game.
Yeah, we got that when you said pitcher sits in the outfield and hits home runs. You explained what you just said. When it was very easy to understand what you just said.
Yeah, so a pitcher played the outfield and hit 2 homers. You got it?
I hate you. That is our episode for this, episode 14, our NHL playoffs. Go ahead and like us on Facebook, 2BlueandOSU. Follow us on Twitter, at 2BlueandOSU. We're very easy to find. We have an awesome, cool logo, too. So go give us a like. Let us know what you guys think. And check us out every Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
You have been listening to 2Blue and OSU. Check them out every Monday.